he spent $10 billion for this?
Asking yourself whether you're wrong is a really good thing. If you really feel strong conviction that you're doing the right thing, then keep going.
Hi, I am so glad you're here. Today, this is a deep dive into the death of the metaverse. One former Facebook executive said, "The problem now is that Mark has surrounded himself with sycophants, and for some reason he's fallen for this vision of the future which no one else is interested in." Also, previous reports revealed that some Meta employees have taken to marking Metaverse documents with the label MMA, which stands for Make Mark Happy. So, picture it, right? A single, universal, immersive virtual world.
Today, we're going to talk about the metaverse, starting with the most important experience of all.
It transcends the boundaries of today's internet and the limits of reality. It once hailed as the future of the internet. It was the future of social interactions, the future of work, the future of content creation, ownership, currency, a fully immersive virtual universe that promised to revolutionize our lives. What happened to the metaverse? A tale of uninhibited ambition.
And lots of things that are physical today, like screens, will just be able to be holograms in the future.
And years-long hype, okay, and ultimately disappointment. The metaverse may have been nothing more than a digital mirage, even as the word scattered headlines for over 2 years. The potential of the metaverse seemed limitless, with a promise of endless opportunities for entertainment, education, socialization, and even commerce. This announcement sparked a flurry of interest from tech companies, investors, the media, all eager to be a part of this new and exciting concept.
About this lineup very soon.
Nice. What else is coming?
Well, the metaverse is constantly evolving.
Not that it was just that appealing or anything, but because they were convinced they really had no choice. In the world right now, with constant new innovations and developments and changes, I know that at least for me, it's scary to think that you're gonna get left behind, you know? It's like, and I think that fear is heightened for a lot of people right now. And that's a great opportunity for marketing. Top tier opportunity for marketing. See, nothing will lead you on board faster than the threat of being left behind. Even if you have no idea where you're sailing off to. Even if the captain doesn't know where you're sailing to, okay? You're going to get on that boat because nobody wants to be left behind. As we'll see, the metaverse was Mark Zuckerberg's main focus, his top priority for years. It seemed that Web3 was just around the corner, the intoxicating allure of novelty, the idea of a brand new world, a decentralized world. People were so caught up in the excitement of the influx of this new stuff that they failed to notice how vague and unspecific everything truly was. Okay, what was the point of creating an uncontrollable hype around such a seemingly unrefined idea? How and why did Mark Zuckerberg's so-called successor of mobile internet fade into obscurity and no one even really noticed? Will the metaverse join the other overambitious so-called tech revolutions that went absolutely nowhere? Next to Google Glasses and 3D TV? Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse was his pride and joy. He said, and this is a quote, he said, "I've thought that this would be the holy grail of social interactions from well before I started Facebook." And maybe that wasn't all he got wrong, okay? How did the metaverse, pegged at one point to become an $800 billion market by 2024, next year, leave Mark Zuckerberg and Meta bleeding billions of dollars? This is a deep dive into the death of the metaverse. We're going deep, and we're starting from the beginning to see why Mark Zuckerberg's dream of a metaverse died.
Community.
Oh, I love pizza.
Welcome to your front row seat to the collapse of an unrealized virtual world. First, let's start at the beginning. Author Neil Stephenson had just published what would become his breakthrough novel. His book was called Snow Crash. In 1982, it was set in a cyberpunk, then futuristic world. The book is immediately intense. You go straight into it, okay? They don't build nothing. In this book, humans are programmable avatars in a 3D virtual space. Written as a metaphor for the real world, Neil Stephenson coined the term metaverse. It appears to its users as an urban environment developed along a 100-meter wide road called the street. It's just called the street. Just the street. The street wraps all the way around the planet, like the equator, basically, but it's a road. The planet is this black perfectly spherical planet. And there are emerging virtual markets too. The real estate market, for one, the virtual real estate market is booming, okay? So the book begins with a pizza delivery driver named Hero.
He specifically sees himself in contrast to the kind of regimented style of a certain kind of workplace, which wouldn't ever work for him. And yet he knows at some level that this is all going to change and that he's headed for the scrap heap of history. So on his business card, Hero identifies himself as the last of the freelance hackers.
He is running very late. And me, I am always late. I'm that person. I know some of y'all are going to hate me for that. I am that person. I always feel very bad about it. Don't worry. I'm not like, oh, it's late. I'm late, whatever. Like, I feel deeply awful about it. I'm just always late. Fun fact, I actually got the most in senior year of high school. I set the record for the most tardy slips in the school. So yeah, that was a achievement. Where's my Pulitzer Prize? Anyway, I'm just saying that because I get the feeling of being late and being absolutely desperate to just not be late. Like, not quite as intensely desperate as Hero, though, because in this book, the pizza delivery turns into a literal life or death high-speed car chase. Okay, where Hero races his electric car around the streets of LA, the car chase capital of the United States, did you know? And he's trying to beat the clock in this cutthroat gig economy of this virtual world, which in this book is called the Metaverse. The characters in this book would all go to the Metaverse to escape their super desolate totalitarian day-to-day life. The society, the world that they live in is so bad that going to the Metaverse is an escape for them. That's why everybody goes to the Metaverse. The author, Neal Stephenson, he, a couple decades later, finds himself being hailed as like Tech Nostradamus, okay? $1 trillion entity seems to have adopted the Metaverse, which Stephenson coined. He made this, and now it's this massive thing. So they're calling him like the Tech Nostradamus, right? But Neal Stephenson told Vanity Fair in an article, she asked, like, what were you thinking when you invented this world, when you wrote about this world, like, and he said he was just making shit up. That's a quote. He said, I was just making shit up. To be fair, though, so was Nostradamus. And so was Mark Zuckerberg.
Because in general, when people talk about the metaverse, they're talking about the next thing that's coming along. And so if it exists today, that suggests that maybe it's largely a pre-metaverse thing. But there are some exceptions that we can talk about in certain kinds of games and other experiences.
To fully understand the metaverse phenomenon, you kind of need to know what's going on over at Facebook/Meta. But at the time, Facebook. Because timing is everything, okay? In this story, timing is everything. Now, neither Facebook or Mark Zuckerberg are known for their stellar reputations. Sorry, Facebook's history makes its ambitions seem even more obviously destined to fail in hindsight. Now, going forward, it's important to remember the metaverse was always much more of a personal Zuckerberg thing than it was a Facebook thing. Just going forward, kind of know that. The metaverse is very much Mark Zuckerberg's thing. He's like prize possession. He had become one with the metaverse and he wanted to be the guy behind Web3, or at least like that's how it seemed. The metaverse seemed to encompass everything Facebook was not. So if Facebook was counting its days, the metaverse could carry Zuckerberg to bigger, better ventures, and he could leave the disaster of Facebook behind him and move forward into newer, bigger, better things, and with a clear name. Or, on the other hand, it was going to solidify his shortcomings. No one needed the metaverse to succeed more than Mark Zuckerberg did. Now, it's hard to watch a man see his dream of fine wine shrivel up like an old raisin, but, it's sad, but the context here is vital. See, Zuckerberg gets a lot of heat for, like, having, he has, like, alien energy, I don't know how to explain.
We are live from my backyard where I am smoking a brisket and some ribs. Do I smoke meat? I'm making meats now.
It just seems like AI generated. I don't have a better way to explain, but you get me.
And I was human. I am human, still. But
however, aside from his, like, something is off but I don't know what effect on people, that's, like, the least of his issues. He's literally just a menace.
I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now, to put it lightly.
I found out that he became the world's youngest billionaire at only 23 years old, and I am also 23. And I wonder if once you have that much money on like such an absurd scale...
Jarvis knows when to make me breakfast.
Your toast is ready.
All right.
I mean, you'd still go back eventually to that same baseline, right? Even if you're a billionaire on that massive level, you'd get used to it, right? Wouldn't you eventually? I mean, that kind of money is like hard to even comprehend. But I can't imagine your demons wouldn't come back as soon as you kind of stop to take your breath.
All right, perfect.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hey, Johnny, what's up?
So I kind of wonder if Zuckerberg needed the metaverse so he could feel, 23 and on top of the world again. And he could do that somehow by, like, maybe creating a new world.
I'm here in Palo Alto, California, chilling with Mark Zuckerberg of the Facebook.com. For the uninitiated or those without a computer, tell us, simply what Facebook is and what it does.
So, I think Facebook is an online directory for colleges, and it's kind of interactive. So if I want to look you up or get information about you, I just go to the Facebook and type in your name, and it brings me up, like, hopefully all the information I'd care to know about you, or this mythical place where, all the startups come from, and got ready to launch at another 150 schools when the year started, and now it's like we'll go to parties on campus, and like if we end up in someone's room, like there's a Facebook window open, and that's pretty cool. I think like in London, he was like 2 of the people in the internet cafe were on Facebook at the time.
I mean, another thing we were talking, like, it sort of inspires, like, people to actually meet out in public.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just an online community. Have you noticed stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the goal that we went into it with wasn't to make an online community, but sort of like a mirror for the real community that existed in real life. So,
I don't know, just a thought, just a more optimistic thought. Who knows? Understanding the complicated and sometimes unbelievable supervillain antics of Facebook, it thrives in scandals like a tabloid at a supermarket. Okay, that's printed on that like weird cardboard paper. Bad PR swirls constantly over there, but it never really seems to matter. It never really seems to truly affect Facebook very much, no matter what they do. The scandals are important to the context of the metaverse. So around 2010, an 18-year-old entrepreneur and inventor named Palmer Luckey decided to take a shot at the lucrative idea then of virtual reality. He created a prototype for what would become the Oculus Rift VR. And it had like this 90-degree field of vision and required the use of a computer for processing power. The headset was just the beginning, though, of blurring the lines between the reality we're in and the reality we can build. See, this like changed things because people had heard of virtual reality, but this was the first time it was done. So this lit a spark of interest in VR. VR was going to be the next thing. But in 2014, before they could release their consumer product, so before they could actually sell the VR headset, Facebook acquired and bought Oculus for $2.3 billion. Meanwhile, in the shadows, personal data belonging to millions of Facebook users was collected without their consent by a British consulting firm called Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica collected this data to use it for political advertising. They built psychological profiles on so many people, and this was the largest social engineering and largest non-consensual, non-ethical psychological experiment to date ever.
People had no idea that their data was being taken in this way.
You've heard of Cambridge Analytica, right? If you haven't, I might make a video about it, or there's a ton of people that have made a video about it, but it's crazy. I'm going to give you a quick overview just so in case you don't know, and also so that you know exactly what Facebook and our boy Mark was up to at the moment.
We could build a psychological profile of each voter in a particular region, or in this case, all of the United States. You get all this money and you've got a billionaire breathing down your neck going, why don't I have it? Yeah, I've just given you tens of millions of dollars and where's my psychological warfare weapon? So the data on these users was collected through an app called This Is Your Digital Life. They had apps on Facebook that were given special permission to harvest data, not from just the person who used the app or joined the app, but also it would then go into their entire friend network and pull out all of the friends' data as well. Things like status updates, likes. in some cases, private messages.
So you didn't have to download the app. You never put your information in. It would, if one of your Facebook friends, right? And how many Facebook friends do most people have? 1,000 or something? If one of your Facebook friends downloads this app, your data now, if you're on their friends list and they download this app, your information and everything about you was given to Cambridge Analytica as well. And a psychological profile was built on you, and you were used in their political advertising.
To get the same message because of their demographics just doesn't make any sense. Clearly, demographics and geographics and economics will influence your worldview. But equally important, or probably more important, are psychographics. That is an understanding of your personality, because it's personality that drives behavior, and behavior that obviously influences how you vote. So how is this possible? Well, at Cambridge, we've rolled out a long-form quantitative instrument to probe the underlying traits that inform personality. This is the cutting edge in experimental psychology known as the ocean model. So how does this impact marketing and communications in elections? For a primary, the Second Amendment might be a popular issue amongst the electorate. If you know the personality of the people you're targeting, you can nuance your messaging to resonate more effectively with those key audience groups. So, for a highly neurotic and conscientious audience, you're going to need a message that is rational and fear-based or emotionally based. In this case, the threat of a burglary and the insurance policy of a gun is very persuasive. Conversely, for a closed and agreeable audience, these are people who care about tradition and habits and family and community. This could be the grandfather who taught his son to shoot and the father who will in turn teach his son. Obviously, talking about these values is going to be much more effective in communicating your message.
So pretty effed up. Overall, the app harvested data of over 87 million Facebook profiles. 87 million people. Cambridge Analytica then used the data to provide analytical assistance to the 2016 presidential campaigns of Ted Bundy and... Did I say Ted Bundy? Ted Cruz. Somehow worse, and Donald Trump. So Cambridge Analytica was also strongly accused of interfering with the Brexit referendum. This was all kind of going on in the background at this time. The public didn't know about this yet. This hadn't came out yet. So we are all being little guinea pigs, but we're thriving in our own little echo chambers, okay? Yes, you, me, everybody, everyone else too, because absolutely anybody, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your intelligence, regardless of anything, it doesn't matter. Everyone is susceptible to this form of propaganda. That's why it's so powerful. If you find yourself fearing something, and it's something you find is also newly trending, it's likely engineered, okay? The last time I'll add my personal opinions here, but the whole mass drag queen hysteria, it is mass hysteria. Okay, drag queens have been around forever, right? And drag queens would undergo a good amount of harassment and targeting and things like that, but nothing like this. This has been turned into a trending topic at the expense of people's lives, and it's obviously engineered to create this new fear in people of drag queens because it accomplishes their political goals. Basically what I'm saying is if you think your side doesn't do it, they do. My side does it, your side does it, everybody's side does it. They all do it because that's politics. But basically what Cambridge Analytica was doing was curating a profile of our deepest fears, moral values, core beliefs, relationships, and everything you can imagine, and then toying and manipulating those for political gain. It was just this manipulation on this massive scale. In 2016 and 2017, Facebook acquired another company, and this one raised some eyebrows, no pun intended. It was called iTribe, and it was this eye tracking startup. So you could track where people's eyes were on camera. Facebook had started various VR and AR projects around 2017. They believed that VR and AR would be taking the world by storm. They formed Oculus Research by combining various projects. This was then renamed and refocused, and their optimism around this time with VR and AR made sense. This was the peak of Pokemon Go, which is an augmented reality game that everybody and their mom was playing in 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Literally today on the App Store, the Pokemon Go app went live. An app that allows us to roam around in the real world, capturing Pokemon, battling people, finding gym leaders. It is unreal. We're first ever Pokemon is caught. That's not an...
Mainstream stores were also racing to figure out how to incorporate AR into their businesses too. Like, this is when IKEA jumped on the train and they made an app called Place.
Everyone to know about Place, our new augmented reality app,
which would let you see like their furniture in your house or in your office on your phone with AR. In 2018, the next year, what they had formed from the Oculus Research Division was a new thing called Facebook Reality Labs. The main project for Facebook Reality Labs at the time was creating realistic, lifelike virtual avatars, hyper-realistic virtual reconstructions of real places, and all other kinds of experimental ideas for virtual reality, which was to be the next big thing. Also in 2018, their nightmare experiment was finally exposed. Whistleblower and Cambridge Analytica employee Christopher Wiley told everything.
The company itself was founded on using Facebook data.
So you've harvested my data and then you've used that to target me in ways that I can't see and that I don't understand.
Yeah, so we would know what kinds of messaging you would be susceptible to, including the framing of it, the topics, the content, the tone, whether it's scary or not, that kind of thing. So what you would be susceptible to and where you're going to consume that. And then how many times do we need to touch you with that in order to change how you think about something?
So our metaverse pioneer, Zuckerberg, had to testify in front of Congress and in 2019 was fined $5 billion by the Federal Trade Commission due to its privacy violations. In October 2019, Facebook agreed to also pay a €500,000 fine to the UK ICO for exposing the data of its users to a, quote, serious risk of harm. This led to the idea of psychological targeting to kind of start gaining interest. People started learning that this was a thing, that this can happen to you, that this likely, if you were on Facebook at the time, did happen to you. This was starting to kind of be warned against and it was coming into public awareness. And this scandal sparked an increased public interest in privacy and social media influence on politics and on our brains, in general. Facebook seemed still as ambitious as ever. Meanwhile, #delete Facebook is trending on Twitter.
Hell yeah.
In 2019, they had the audacity to announce the acquisition of what's called Control Labs, a startup building neural interface technology to control machines using only the human mind. A non-invasive neural interface platform that deciphers brain motor functions in order to, remotely control machines. This technology could enable users to do things like type by simply thinking about it. So it could translate your thoughts into physical words or digital words, whatever. But it could basically read your thoughts. It could read your mind, okay?
The technology behind Control Labs is supposed to harness the intention behind your action, effectively read your mind.
And you can speak with just your mind, which is cool and terrifying. Neural signals are a powerful thing for a corporation to have control over and access to, especially Facebook. So anyway, Control Labs founder is a man named Thomas Reardon.
We're now able to basically connect the nervous system directly to the machine, rather than this indirect way that we actually work with machines today.
And this is the guy who made Control Labs, that made this technology. And he said neural signals are the best identifier for people that exists today. Not only that, but Facebook's acquisition of Control Labs will have access to almost unlimited amounts of capital, some of the smartest minds in the world, and Facebook's 24 billion users. Oh, good, I was worried you were using my data or something to manipulate my worldview or hand-tailor my fears to line up with the political candidate, but hey, just get inside my brain instead. It's fine. I trust him. I trust an ice. That's a lot of power, too much. If a metaverse grew, Facebook doubled down on its investment, just as The Verge published an expose. And this was explosive, okay? It revealed that a team of moderators hired by Facebook to patrol its virtual reality spaces were subjected to extremely traumatic working conditions.
We've all signed non-disclosure agreements, the Facebook omerta. We've all been told again and again, don't ever tell anybody what your job is. I used to work for Facebook and my job was to spend 8 hours a day looking at all the worst things that people post online so that you don't have to see it. And you are seeing dead bodies and murders, or people celebrating having killed somebody, dogs being barbecued alive, and you are seeing these images. It took me a long time to understand how much this stuff had affected me. And it's been very hard for me to find these really difficult emotional reactions when I talk about this stuff, and I've had to be through therapy and take a lot of time just working on myself to get through this. It's really difficult to quantify how much of it was of a particular type or how extreme it was. You would be able to quantify this, but these numbers are not available. Facebook have them, but as an employee, you're not entitled to find out what kind of harmful material you've been exposed to. I'm going to guess it's between 5 and 10% of what you see every day is potentially traumatizing.
Moderators were tasked with viewing graphic and disturbing content such as depictions of sexual assault and child were not provided with any adequate support or resources to cope with watching these things day in, day out for hours. In 2019, Facebook was planning a new product like launch in 2020. Enter Libra. Not the astrological sign. Facebook's cryptocurrency project. Yup. They got into the crypto game too, guys, don't worry. Libra was to be based on a permission-like blockchain system controlled by a group of corporate entities. The value of Libra would come from a mix of different world currencies. The money that supports Libra will be held in governing associations' bank accounts. This would basically ensure that the value of the currency remains stable and that it also holds some kind of real value because it is backed by world currencies and stuff, so it's in theory. It did. The government was a little bit worried about this. They did not want Facebook to do this because they did not want currency to be controlled by private corporations.
With the basically unregulated currency called Libra, the reaction from Wall Street and government bankers was about as expected.
Libra raises a lot of serious concern.
Libra would allow an independent virtual economy, a whole independent economy to exist within Facebook's metaverse. Users could create content, games, experiences, and then get paid in Libra, which they could then exchange for their own country's currency if they want to, or just keep it and spend it in the metaverse. You could even earn a living in this virtual world. That's a lot of power, too much, dude. You have it all. Just links, stop. You could literally get a job, work, your whole career could be in the metaverse, and you would get paid in the metaverse in Libra, and you could then spend your money in the metaverse in Libra, buying virtual real estate, virtual clothes, whatever. September of 2019. This was a very busy year. Facebook launched a social VR world called Facebook Horizon. Few companies want that narrative shift more than Facebook did at the time. They were dodging very damaging leaks, obviously with Cambridge Analytica, deflecting international calls for antitrust action, and shrugging off its own stalled attempts to launch its decentralized digital currencies.
I actually don't know if Libra is going to work, but I believe that it's important to try new things.
So Libra was not, gonna probably work out. Facebook announces Horizon, and Horizon is this enormous project. See, Horizon seemed to serve as the building blocks for the metaverse. As excitement around this idea of a metaverse grew, Facebook doubled down on its investment in VR and AR technology, announcing the development of Facebook Horizon in 2019. It was touted as a social VR platform. It would allow users to create their own virtual experiences, their own virtual spaces, interact with each other in this completely virtual new environment. Facebook Horizon was set to be the centerpiece of the metaverse. This was supposed to be the coolest thing since sliced bread, okay? But the road to launch for Facebook Horizon was very rocky. The beta launch, which was supposed to take place in 2020, was delayed multiple times due to technical issues and developmental setbacks and stuff like that. Finally launched in early 2021. The reception was actually very lukewarm at best.
Facebook Horizon, as you can tell. In fact, we're doing the entire video today inside of Facebook Horizon. Today I want to show you around
it just did
what
not
is here.
Live up to expectations whatsoever. It was disappointing for a lot of people. While the engineering of the metaverse itself, headsets, the spaces, wasn't such a hit, the engineering of the idea had been an absolute success. Somehow, with a product that was ultimately as disappointing as Horizon was, and a completely blank slate where a plan was supposed to be, it didn't detract from the metaverse itself, not even a little bit. Not only had the metaverse become synonymous with the future of tech to consumers, but companies as well were all fighting for the spotlight to shine on their new VR, AR products or integrations. They had to change directions to stay on track to be at the forefront of the revolution that was to be the metaverse. Rumors swirled around Apple's upcoming VR headset that was apparently supposed to launch last year. I haven't heard anything about that since. Let's talk about Web 3. Web 3 was the projected, or is the projected next step of the internet. It would be powered by blockchain computing architecture. All applications would be open sourced and interconnected, and most importantly, decentralized. See, right now we're on Web 2. Web 2 is the current state of the internet. Before that, we were in Web 1, which isn't called Web 1, but I'm going to call it Web 1. Web 1 was the original, web. The World Wide Web. Go surf the web, as they say.
On your mark, get set. We're riding on the internet. Cyberspace, set free. Hello, virtual reality.
Able to read some of my favorite cooking magazines online. I've even gotten some great gardening tips, too.
No wonder you guys are always so busy on the computer.
This was the internet you would see from the 90s to the early 2000s. The first internet was read-only. So there were articles, news, weather, but it was basically a digital newspaper. You could not interact with it. Web 2, when Web 2 came around, this brought interactive content and later personalized content. It was no longer static like the static archive. Instead of read-only, now it was read and write. Web 2 features major sites like Facebook and YouTube, and no two news feeds or For You pages are the same. This interactivity with all the new life-changing inventions came new problems. See, these are problems that had never existed before because this technology had never existed before. But issues started popping up with centralization, data privacy, and other things like that. The thing about Web 2 is that it is corporate owned, and therefore built and maintained in the best interest of corporations. I hate it, and I hate that so much, but Web 3 would change that. It would shift the internet out of the hands of corporations and tech giants, and instead it would be controlled by users. Web 3 would have all the good things of Web 2. We'd still have everything we love now, but it would be structured to grow in the best interest of the collective everyone rather than the billionaires. Everything would be transparent and publicly documented on the blockchain. So Web 3 would be read, write, own, and that would help eliminate all the problems of the currently centralized internet. On the flip side, one might consider Web 3 as the crypto Wild West, but with better marketing, right? Unregulated dynamics where people who get in early make huge profits by selling to people who get in later. The term Web 3 was coined in 2014 by Ethereum co-founder Gavin Wood, and the idea gained interest in 2021. However, like the metaverse, and as is the nature of buzzword, the skeptics say the idea is a long way from proving its use beyond niche applications. So many of the tools of Web3 were aimed at crypto traders. It would be hugely difficult, though, to regulate and moderate a decentralized web.
And your job is to protect people. We just heard this shouting, this guy just shouting fuck, what do I do? I've got a suicide, what do I do? And he was in a complete panic because there's a life at risk right in front of him, right there and then. And replaying this stuff in your head unconsciously while you're asleep, but then you're not allowed to talk about your work with anybody, and your job is to protect people.
Also, a software engineer named Stephen Deal, who described in a blog post about Web3, described it as a vapid marketing campaign that attempts to reframe the public's negative associations of crypto assets.
CryptoZoo.co. I am so excited about this project. It's so fun.
How much did you guys make from CryptoZoo?
I lost around $50,000 in CryptoZoo. Really fun game.
I lost $40,000.
Really fun game that makes you money.
$40,000.
I lost around $15,000 US.
I lost $25,000. It's so fun.
Depending on who you ask, is either a revolution for the internet and countless industries as we know it, or the greatest Ponzi scheme in human history.
So fun.
To understand why Zuckerberg was able to sell the idea of the metaverse to anyone and everyone, the metaverse shared the goals of Web3, but they're not the same thing. They both aim to be decentralized, user-governed. They would both encourage ownership within the virtual world and challenge the monopolistic power of corporations right now. Web 2, which is what we use now, is generally free. You can go to Google and Google something. It doesn't cost you any money. But nothing in life is free. You pay with your data and you pay with your privacy. Oh, and the biggest wide-scale privacy violation in history since the dawn of the internet exposed the true power of weaponized data and psychological warfare mechanisms. Facebook did it. It was Facebook.
I've made a lot of mistakes in running the company. It was my mistake, and I'm sorry.
Right? So why are the same execs behind the largest case of data weaponization in history and largest psychological social experiment in history, leading to an unprecedented political polarization and a detriment to the mental health of millions of people? Why would a company who's created a platform that gained all its success, all its power, all its control, in a way not unlike the cartel, getting millions of people addicted to something that you then sell to them? You same people want to build a new world where they're just going to hand over all that power to us? Like, it seems nonsensical. At the end of June, the creation of the Metaverse begins. Mark Zuckerberg told his employees about his ambitious new initiative, the Metaverse. Now, he hadn't changed his name to Meta yet, and nothing was officially announced quite yet, but the exciting surrounding the Metaverse that was beginning to brew then started to dwindle when news of a major leak came out in September of 2021.
Her name is Frances Haugen. The complaints say Facebook's own research shows that it amplifies hate, misinformation, and political unrest, but the company hides what it knows.
There were conflicts of interest between what was good for the public and what was good for Facebook. And Facebook over and over again chose to optimize for its own interests, like making more money.
This revelation had a pretty big impact on Facebook's reputation, but again, not that it mattered. Many people began to question the company's ability to manage the complex and then potentially dangerous metaverse.
Said it amplifies hate, misinformation, and political unrest.
So, Zuckerberg needs a new plan. Facebook clearly had no plans to become less evil or follow the law. Not that it was ever enforced on them anyway, but the public was getting fed up, so they did have to do something. They had to change the narrative. They had to bring positive attention to the brand. And Zuckerberg wanted to find himself free of the controversies that had haunted his business ventures for years. Repeatedly, just popping up out of the woodwork whenever. When the same whistleblower, like I said before, Frances, went on 60 Minutes, this was on October 21st, Facebook's name was tarnished. And with it, Zuckerberg's name too. Facebook, 7 days later, announces a major rebranding effort.
It is time for us to adopt a new company brand to encompass everything that we do. To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta. Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. Our apps and their brands, they're not changing either. And we are still the company that designs technology around people. Hey, and welcome to Connect. Today, we're going to talk about the Metaverse.
And then the Metaverse is all anybody's talking about.
Hey, we're going to talk about the Metaverse.
Metaverse. In the Metaverse.
Metaverse is the Metaverse.
This is when the company also publicly announced their new focus is the Metaverse, with a new mission statement to connect people in a more immersive and natural way. The announcement came with a flashy video presentation showing off the company's vision for the Metaverse as a space where users could interact in a virtual reality, attend events, and even work together in virtual offices. Yay. That's such a weird app. Anyway, Mark Zuckerberg said, "We are building a one-to-one map of almost unimaginable scope. When it's complete, our physical reality will merge with the digital universe. In other words, get ready to meet your digital twin of your house, your country, your office, your life." Every article would say, marketing, communication professionals, public relations, y'all need to pay attention to the Metaverse because it's the next frontier for online interaction. Just like social media revolutionized the online marketing landscape, the Metaverse will too. The thing is, currently, you can only experience the internet when you go to it. But with new connectivity, devices, technology, we'll be able to experience it all around us every single day. Doesn't that sound so fun to live in the internet? This is what the Metaverse was to be. A new virtual space you could live in. Now you'd think, given the timing, the last thing anyone would trust or hype up would be a fully immersive Facebook, right? But you'd be wrong. The metaverse was met with a mix of excitement and also like mockery. It was either the coolest thing or the dumbest thing you ever heard. It was new, intriguing, and even if you would never expect yourself to be a regular in the metaverse, you do want to at least try it, right? You want to at least experience it, you want to see what it's like, you know? So people were curious and excited about these new experiences. It's a wild concept. There seems to be a ton of new opportunities and things to try and do and ways to live. And around this time, we saw millions of people spending hours a day in virtual spaces like Roblox and Fortnite. Interest in purely digital ownership, that had spiked dramatically. There were NFTs. And cryptocurrencies were like the thing, right? NFTs, cryptocurrencies, y'all remember all that hype? Like all of these new things were going to be fundamental in the metaverse. This is when Zuckerberg said, we will effectively transition from people seeing us as primarily a social media company to being a metaverse company. And Zuckerberg was so busy with his new little passion project, if he couldn't control this world, if people were going to keep blowing whistles, he'd build a new world. It would contain a fully fledged economy. It would offer unprecedented interoperability, no matter who runs whatever particular part of it. And this is what Zuckerberg's main selling point was that no one company will run the metaverse. It'll be an embodied internet. Now, Zuckerberg was about to become really busy because he was the face of the metaverse, both figuratively and literally in the form of an avatar that people did make fun of him for.
Just so terrible, I can't tell. And who the hell is that? Is that a space alien? He spent $10 billion for this? Oh, it's Zuck himself.
Cyberbullied into an upgrade to.
So he upgraded. Is this better? At least, well, okay, so look at this one. That's a little more suitable. I know the photo I posted earlier this week was pretty basic. It was taken very quickly to celebrate a launch. Mark, you're one of the richest men in the world. You own outright one of the biggest companies in the world. A minute.
He apparently found this very frustrating. His uncanny virtual replica. The metaverse was viewed as both an escape from reality and an inescapable reality. The practical, logical, reasonable issues with the metaverse as a whole were shuffled under the rug and replaced with aggressive FOMO marketing. Fear of missing out marketing. Love it, hate it, doesn't really matter. Get on board or drown. This is the future. Everyone is doing it. You are already behind. Next thing you know, they were. Everybody was doing it. So it seemed as though one day there was no such thing as metaverse, and the next you were already falling behind and you needed to secure your place in the metaverse. I mean, it was, and even at that time it was criticized, and it was the subject of a lot of good jokes at its expense and a lot of memes, but Meta decided to solidify their confidence in Mark Zuckerberg's new plan, and they put their money where their mouth was. If one of the biggest tech media giants is investing that much money into said metaverse, it's probably coming whether you like it or not, or so we thought. And many reputable people were sharing in the metaverse hype, adding to the inevitable doom of a future where we all float around like legless me's and still have to go to the office from 9 to 5. Zuckerberg had some pretty reputable supporters, like Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney had been discussing his desire to contribute to a metaverse for a good amount of time by then. It truly seemed to have effectively replaced Facebook's seedy reputation with what is now Meta and its metaverse. Whether it was the subject of memes or jokes online, or if it was getting praised as the vision of the future, at least it wasn't Facebook anymore. Next thing we know, we're all planning for an absurd future that suddenly seems to be this inevitable metaverse. Now, the problems are seriously large problems. The metaverse itself is filled with issues. The co-creator of Google Earth and HoloLens, he wrote, VR fundamentally strips away the most common constraints of reality: location and travel, physics, sometimes even time, where hours can often seem like minutes. We can travel to the historical past or to imagine futures. One of the chief tech officers from the White House said that the metaverse will pan out like remote-controlled self-driving cars or roadable aircraft. Almost here for decades, yet structurally completely unlikely for decades. The use cases for fully immersive experiences have a small niche that, for economic reasons, is unlikely to grow into a global phenomenon for at least decades to come. And that's pretty much sums it up, right? As the hype grew, word spread, businesses are scrambling to figure out how to reinvent themselves for the inevitable metaverse. The glaring problems were going unaddressed. The metaverse was pitched as this utopia, this inevitable next step, but there are so many problems with his metaverse. Let's start with the headsets, and we'll go from there. Now, 2022 was a rough year for Meta. along with every other tech company, pretty much. But second quarter of last year, they reported their first ever revenue decline in history, in the company's entire history. For the next quarter, the reported losses were 4 times what they were. With back-to-back poor earnings, Meta lost about $700 billion in market value between October of 2021 and October of 2022. Mark Zuckerberg kept pushing VR. He was all about VR, virtual reality, and it just... we have no way of making that a thing that people want, you know? In just the first 3 quarters of 2022, Meta lost more than $9.4 billion, which rounds out to about $3.5 billion per month. All of these losses were what was poured into the company's Reality Labs division, which was the people that were building the metaverse. After the third quarter of 2022, their losses are approaching $10 billion. Mark Zuckerberg decides to spend more on VR. Dude, the last 3 months of 2022 raked in losses of over $4 billion a month when he decided to throw even more money at it to see if the problem would go away. So the metaverse is costing billions and billions and billions of dollars. Imagine what you could build with like that much money. Seriously, just like picture for a minute. What could you do with that money? They were doing nothing. They were throwing it away effectively. It seemed like, right? Because I mean, the scale of that is, like, incomprehensible. According to an insider analysis of the firm's financial filings, they had pumped in total $36 billion into Reality Labs since 2019. They have spent more on the metaverse than any of the companies developing self-driving cars have spent. They spent more on the metaverse than on just the research and development of the metaverse itself than Apple did for its entire business, everything it does. They spent more on just the metaverse. And the metaverse losses were not limited to money. They also were forced then to lay off over 10,000 employees because the metaverse was bleeding money. 10,000 people lost their jobs. The problem was that the metaverse was undue. It just couldn't be done the way that they were trying to do it. And his decisions to continue pushing money into it with uninhibited ambitions, never seeming to actually make any sense. How can you spend billions, losing over $4 billion a month, and still not address any of these basic, glaring, obvious issues? The problems with the metaverse, they're not obscure, they're not hypothetical, they're not like potential future problems, they're like real issues, like the fucking headsets.
I'm in avatar meetings. My eyes hurt and my head hurts.
So what did I learn from this adventure, other than I'd never recommend you do this?
So for gaming, novelty experiences, the headsets are manageable, but they're nowhere near everyday ready at all. And the fact is that lightweight wireless headsets or other options, they can't achieve the same retinal display pixel density that's needed for virtual immersion. So it's just kind of impossible to build anything better, but current VR headsets are reminiscent of like those old dial-up computers that are like 2 feet wide and clunky and heavy and can cause you headaches. You also can't see when you have it on, so that's super inconvenient. And also, you may be frolicking through a field of metaverse daisies.
Big ugly trying to kick my friend. Oh shit! What have you done? My God, you're using that man as a weapon. That man is not supposed to be used as a weapon.
You underestimate my power.
Oh God. Oh Jesus.
But up to everyone else, you look like this.
Knocked him out.
The headset is a death sentence for any hopes of wide-scale adoption. Another issue for wide-scale adoption of this technology is the cost. Consumer VR headsets range from $300 to $3,500. The barrier of entry is high. The barrier to even be able to experience what the metaverse is at this moment, which is not much, it's expensive. And considering the fact that there's like literally no mainstream interest, and despite the claims, the metaverse has failed at least this far of going anywhere near mainstream. The graphics, while they are very impressive and there are very cool things to see and do, they're not always realistic. The experiences of this virtual world pretty quickly become like really disorienting. Very expensive experiences. The virtual workspace, for one, which was extremely hyped as the new way to go to the office, because that's what we all want. You can't even use a keyboard with your computer unless you can do it blindly without looking, because you can't see your keyboard. And they did make a way of being able to kind of blend reality so you can see the keyboard, but I'll show you what it looks like. It's horrible. It does not work. It's not efficient. It's not comfortable. Like, yes, the screens are cool, but it just doesn't really work like it needs to, and it's inefficient. You also have to have all the lights on in your room to use the headset at all, or it'll just make you turn on the lights. And I mean, you can't even see, so it's kind of irritating. And I don't mean just you need a little lamp or a little nightlight. You need, like, it needs to be well lit, even though you can't see anything. It's just another thing that personally annoys me. It's so committed on this full immersion that it misses the point of immersion completely. They put all their eggs in this VR basket. Augmented reality would have, in my opinion, been a much better way to go. It would have been a much better way to begin the metaverse. Remember, when it was written about in 1982 originally, the metaverse was a means of escaping their terrible world. Like, they were in this horrible totalitarian society, this dystopian society, and they needed a place. People wanted to escape from that. We don't all live in a dystopian totalitarian society that we need to literally leave so completely and escape to this virtual Zuckerberg world. In my opinion, I think blending the metaverse element by element into our current world, piece by piece, until, eventually we're in a completely different world and we don't even realize it. I think that would be a better way to go about it. Introducing AR element here, VR thing here, AR here, and here. And people can adopt like different little things, and then eventually, before we know it, we're all in the metaverse and we didn't even realize it. I think that would have been a better way. But time goes on and money goes on and everything is happening and these practical issues still aren't addressed. It kind of starts looking like they're not going to be able to fix them. And they are definitely metaverse killing problems. And I haven't even touched the other concerns that come with a real metaverse, which is the fact that it would be ran by Facebook. Since we seemingly have no tangible metaverse at all, it seems like jumping the gun to talk about issues like governance or security or moderation and things like that, because it's just, in order for those problems to become relevant and for us to know the landscape those problems are existing in, we have to have a metaverse, and right now we don't. So I'm not even going to go into all that. But also, monetization. How do you make the metaverse profitable? You can incorporate ads, but that would be very Black Mirror, especially personalized and targeted ads, which Facebook is known for. Like, what, do you have an ad like following you while you walk all around? Does it like play in front of you when you're walking? Do you have to like play an ad to go in a shop? Do you have to play an ad to see your friends? Do you have to play an ad to leave? Like, what is it? Nobody wants any of that. Nobody wants to go into this whole new virtual world to be inundated with ads. That sounds like hell. And also, people, like, it was just so sucky. The experience was so sucky that the people building it, the creators, they had to force them to use the virtual workspace because it's so unusable. It just sucks. And the headsets give you a headache and they're disorienting and it's annoying. And nobody wants to sit there for 8 hours in a headset and look at legless little floating meme Lego boys. Like,
what are my legs supposed to do? We can't actually detect the signal from your legs.
I don't know. People working for Meta have said things like, the metaverse will be our slow death, and Mark Zuckerberg will single-handedly kill this company with the metaverse.
Needing metaverse is fun if you don't do it for 4 hours on end.
That was so much time in avatar meetings. My eyes hurt and my head hurts.
So what did I learn from this adventure, other than I'd never recommend you do this?
Manages to keep the hype going a little bit longer. He was still selling the idea of a metaverse. He's selling its potential. He's selling the idea. And he had managed to, up until this point, still sell this idea. And meanwhile, while he's selling this idea, he has billions of dollars and tons of people working to make it a reality. He's already selling it as if it is a reality, but it is not. And they can't figure it out. And now he's screwed because he's been saying it was already a thing, and now they can't even figure out how to build it, even though he's spending billions of dollars on it. It's just,
I knew you were bluffing.
Not possible. The way that they're doing it is not possible. And then the final horseman of the apocalypse came for the metaverse. AI. See, GPT managed to gain all the hype that the metaverse had, but they also had a real product. They developed AI successfully. They were able to give it to people to use, and it was free, and it worked already. Everyone can see in some way, if you've used ChatGPT, you can see in some way a way that it could help you in your life. People see it, they know how it works, it lived up to the hype, it more than lived up to the hype, it blew people away. AI has been compared to the Industrial Revolution or the invention of the wheel. It has completely changed everything. It can be used in niche interests or for mainstream interests. It can be used in your world. You don't have to leave your world and enter Mark Zuckerberg's world, and it will work with you, for you, and it's free. And GPT was never touted on its potential to be something. It was never sold as this idea or this inevitable utopia. They waited until it was something and then gave it to everyone so that they could integrate it into their own lives how they saw fit. The metaverse, on the other hand, sold an idea of an unrealized utopia. All of the issues remained unaddressed, years and billions of dollars later. AI brought the metaverse to us and is accessible, practical, and most of all, not owned by Facebook. And not owned by Facebook is a big deal. Like, the hype of the metaverse was enough to drown out the whistleblower that time, but that's it. Facebook shot itself in the foot when it decided to f*** with everyone. Facebook issues are meta issues. Facebook issues are metaverse issues.
To reflect who we are,
I believe Facebook's products harm children.
our mission remains the same. Our apps and their brands, they're not changing either.
Stoke division and weaken our democracy.
It's still about bringing people together.
So the AI hype is stealing Metaverse's thunder. Hype of the metaverse being the only thing keeping it around, since it is solely hype. Other companies that were scrambling to invest and figure out how to invest into this metaverse, now they're shifting to AI instead. They're all abandoning it, and I think Mark Zuckerberg knew at this point it had ran its course. There's no way, AI is the tool that gives us the capabilities to build a real metaverse. Maybe, right? And there's no way in hell that people want Facebook running it. If we have any other options, we don't want Facebook running. So AI has seriously leveled the playing field. Before, the cost of developing pretty much anything like that was reserved to big tech companies like Facebook. No one else could afford to build a metaverse, even if they would actually be better at it. They can't afford to do that. Nobody can afford to do that. You see, we have to rely on these tech giants to do it because they're the only ones with the capital to do it. On the other hand, now, AI gives capabilities to everyone that you would have had to have billions of dollars to spend before. With AI, that's not the case anymore. The core ideas of decentralization and user ownership were super appealing to people, but Facebook is notorious for the opposite of that. If they were going to build the metaverse, they would most likely make it appear decentralized or fair, as much as they had to make people feel safe. But Facebook would still be running the world and tailoring it to Facebook's interests. AI has given other people a chance, and now we might not all have to run to secure a spot in Facebook's world. Given any other options, Facebook loses because they have treated people so good in the past. Zuckerberg has gotten so comfortable in his little padded world of other big tech execs in Evian water, and there was an article that said he's fallen for their vision of the future, which no one else is interested in. He's literally making what he envisions the future to be, what he envisions a better world to be, and his most exciting place is office space. They already live in a perfect world utopia, and they're trying to sell it to everybody else, but they already live there. You already are in. Y'all play the real world like a metaverse, okay? Y'all are gaming everybody, everything, buying everything, doing whatever you want. How could you ever? I don't even imagine why you would want to leave when you have the most privileged life on the planet. And I don't know why you think anyone would want you to build their world. Because you have the capital and the power in this world to make it better, and you have made it worse. So, a couple weeks ago, in the dead of night, in an unmarked grave, Mark Zuckerberg quietly buried the metaverse. No press release, no big announcement. On February 27th of 2023, he says, "We're creating a new top-level product group at Meta focused on generative AI to turbocharge our work in this area. We're starting by pulling together a lot of teams working on generative AI across the company into one group focused on building delightful experiences around this technology." Which is exactly what they did for the metaverse. That was the creation of Reality Labs. Pretty much the same statement, word for word, just sub out AI with metaverse. And with that, the metaverse died. So this has been a lot. That was a deep dive into the death of the metaverse. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was interesting. I do think that the metaverse will be developed. I just don't want Facebook to run it, if that wasn't clear. I hope I made that clear. But I think the main problem is that Facebook should not have it. Facebook should not build it. Facebook does not need to be in charge of that. They don't need, and I'm hopeful that AI has enabled people with less billions of dollars and that aren't living in bubbles that are not stupid to be able to do this, so that hopefully it actually works in the interest of everybody else that's not that privileged and advantaged. So anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to me because I make videos regularly. It would make my whole day would be made, and I would be so happy. So please do that. Let me know what you think. Comment. Let me know, please. I want to know, would you live in the metaverse? Do you think it will happen? Do you think it is dead? Like, what do you think? Let me know. If you have anything else you want me to talk about, please tell me. I love ideas. They help a lot. Thank you so much again, and please be safe out there, okay?